Hello, I am Professor Kino and welcome to my Office of Cinematic Antiquity. Today we will be talking about Disney has been remaking a lot of their classic films of late, and not all of them make sense to me. Beauty and the Beast, for instance, was remade pretty much shot for shot, but with live-action actors instead, and the upcoming Lion King remake looks to be about the same. In the end, I start to think, what's the point? Is this whole phase just an exercise in profiting off nostalgia? However, this isn't my attitude toward all the remakes. The upcoming Aladdin, for instance, looks a lot like the original, but with a Guy Ritchie visual flair imposed on it, and a new and interesting take on the character of the genie, which together I think will make an interesting watch. And this curiosity was also my attitude toward the Dumbo remake. The original 1941 animated film is definitely a classic and a one-of-a-kind, but it is also only 64 minutes long, and in those 64 minutes, presents a few things that modern Disney probably wants to distance itself from. And by that, I'm mostly referring to the Crows and their leader, Jim Crow, i.e. the jive-talking African-American racial stereotypes voiced by white men that are reminiscent of the massively racist minstrel shows of the 19th century featuring blackface and the open ridicule of African-Americans and their culture. Yeesh. So I understand Disney wanting to move away from that a little. But despite this, the theme and message of the original Dumbo, that of an underdog succeeding in the face of doubt, is a great message that deserves to be remembered. So the question remains, was Disney able to remake Dumbo in such a way so as to preserve its core message while simultaneously distancing itself from the original's controversial aspects in a worthwhile way? Or was the whole thing merely a pointless endeavor created to capitalize and profit off of nostalgia? Premise. The failing Medici brothers' circus is saved by the discovery of a remarkable act, the flying elephant Dumbo. However, his existence captures the interest of the rich entrepreneur V.A. Vanderveer for better and for worse. Writing. What's clear from the get-go is that visionary filmmaker Tim Burton put his stamp on this remake. From serious characters mixed with a dash of zaniness to a fantastically macabre feel, this film is fully Burton mixed with Disney. But auteur theory aside, what differentiates this film's story from the originals? For starters, it is more set in reality. Well, as much in reality as a film about a flying elephant can be. So the original's talking animals aren't here, there are no musical numbers, and while Dumbo is the central character, he is not the only protagonist. He now shares the role with some human characters, in this case the injured World War I veteran Holt Ferrier and his two children Millie and Joe. And this right here will probably turn some people off this film. Besides its premise and general theme, that of underdogs succeeding in the face of doubt, there isn't much left of the original. That isn't to say that this remake neglects its roots, quite the contrary. There are lots of nods to it. From Timothy the Mouse to some of the original tunes playing in the background, such as Pink Elephants on Parade, to even some of the original lines being used. You've seen a horse fly, you've seen a house fly, now get ready to see an elephant fly, or something like that. But for the most part, these are just nods. The focus of this version of the story is instead placed into a vast array of new characters, i.e. the Ferrier family, the head of their circus Max Medici, and their fellow troupe members. Dumbo is still a central part of the story, but it is no longer focused solely on him. And this works slightly. The new characters are engaging enough, but aren't really fantastic. While they all have understandable motivations, they never feel like deep characters, and remain relatively static throughout the film. They're passable, don't get me wrong, but nothing to write home about. And this particularly goes for the villain, simply a greedy capitalist. Like I said, all passable, but nothing spectacular. It's pretty bare bones. Everything in this movie is. It's never bad. In fact, it's oftentimes cute and heartfelt and has that Tim Burton feel to it all that makes it extremely watchable. But the whole film never breaks out of seen it before territory. So in the end, this version of the Dumbo story takes the original's feel and expands on it in a relatively entertaining way that, while not being groundbreaking, necessary, or memorable, is enjoyable while it's on screen, thanks mostly to the charm of Tim Burton's influences. Acting. There is a mix of acting talent here. The best is the often unappreciated Colin Farrell as Holt Ferrier. Farrell has always been able to land roles in big budget films, but then doesn't get much credit. But I've always appreciated his range and ability to fit any role given to him, and he doesn't disappoint here. His performance is the most moving and engaging. And equally excellent, albeit not as moving, is Eva Green as the French acrobat Colette Marchant. She is charming and able to give an otherwise shallow character a nice amount of depth. Also solid were a lot of the supporting cast members, namely Diobia Opare as Rongo, the strongest man alive. He doesn't say much, but he emotes so well with just his face that I couldn't help but think he was great. And Alan Arkin as the bank stooge J. Griffin Remington, who doesn't get much screen time, but definitely steals the show when he's there. Next up, the kids themselves, Millie and Joe Ferrier, played by Nico Parker and Finley Hobbins. They weren't spectacular, but as child actors go, they were solid. And finally, we have Danny DeVito as the circus owner Max Medici and Michael Keaton as the rich entrepreneur V.A. Vanderveer. While they in no way give bad performances, they seem like they were in a completely different movie at times. They were just really over the top and spent a lot of the time chewing up the scenery. For instance, DeVito could sometimes deliver lines that felt overblown and completely off the tone of the scene he was in, and Keaton switched accents a lot and went from camp villain to dramatic actor repeatedly, and not always to great effect. They both had moments that were great, but also moments that were a little off. So all in all, the acting was fine with ups and downs across the whole film's runtime. Costumes, hair, and makeup. It's always fun to see the costumes, hair, and makeup in a film that features a circus. While there are other costumes in this movie, such as early 20th century suits and dresses for circus patrons and some World War I US soldier uniforms, most of the costumes are from various circus acts. From mermaids to not terribly creepy clowns to snake charmers, they all look great here. But I really want to mention the look of Michael Keaton's zany, wealthy entrepreneur look, which I thought was fun in a Willy Wonka way. It wasn't perfect, but I was strangely drawn to it. And the look of Eva Green's multiple outfits, all of which were stunningly beautiful. So all in all, the costumes, hair, and makeup were creative, fun, zany, very Burton, and I thought they were excellent. Set design. Just like the costumes, hair, and makeup, the sets in this film are great. Creative, fun, and wacky. And while I thought that most of the films, such as the Medici Brothers Circus, were merely made above average by the addition of Burton's creative flair, Vanderveer's Dreamland was beyond great. Slightly steampunk with lots of little nooks and crannies to it. In fact, it was very much like a Burtonian Disney World. It was fantastically realized. Choreography. Besides a few chases and a punch or two, the main choreography here is featured in the circus acts, and they are great, despite not all of them being super flashy. There are some dance performances, clown acts, and my personal favorites, acrobatics performed by Eva Green's Colette. Every time she performed, I found it graceful, mesmerizing, and beautiful. Cinematography. This isn't the best looking film I've ever seen, but its cinematography is very good. At one point in the film, Michael Keaton's Vanderveer says, while watching Dumbo fly, that he had his childhood feelings of amazement restored. And the camera work during these same sequences helps us, as an audience, understand what he's talking about through some nice awe-inspiring angles and nods to the original. The whole film is visually attractive, and that is in part due to Tim Burton's unique visual flair, and the whole film is full of it. Editing. The editing here was good. There were plenty of cuts to show off all the film's creative sets and costumes, but not too many to feel choppy. The scenes were spliced together nicely, and everything felt fluid. CGI. The CGI here isn't stellar across the board. While Dumbo and the other elephants looked great, and Dumbo did look suitably adorable, the other animals were merely good. And the same went for the background CGI as well. Some of it was great, but some of it was also just good. However, it all fit nicely with the film aesthetically, so the CGI was good, but not the best. Music. None of the songs really stuck out to me. They just felt like your basic hopeful songs, exciting songs, foreboding songs, etc. But they did all fit with the feel of the film, i.e. all had circus-esque sounds to them. However, a few times throughout the film, the tunes of the original songs are played, and they were nice nods to it, despite not being fully necessary, so the music was good enough. Direction. It was clear that Tim Burton is a fan of the 1941 animated Dumbo film. He put his own flair into the story while keeping it true to the original. It doesn't do anything too risky and can sometimes feel a little bare bones, but it's cute and full of heart and an entertaining Burtonian ride from beginning to end. My enjoyment. I was entertained throughout this film, but even just a few days after having seen it, I felt it vanishing from my memory. I enjoyed my time, I thought it was cute, and if I saw it playing on television, I'd gladly keep it on. But it's not a film I'm going to be rushing out to see again anytime soon. Recommendations. To start, this film is a Disney remake, and so its mere existence won't sway the opinions of anyone who is already sick of them. Similarly, however, I think this film is too far removed from the original 1941 animated feature to appease those who hold the classic Disney in high regard. However, for anyone in the middle who is looking for a passively cute, relatively family-friendly distraction on a slow day, Tim Burton's Dumbo remake should hit the spot. Thanks for watching, I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. If you want to add anything, feel free to comment. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I am Professor Kino, and I look forward to our next discussion.